Good morning, students. Today we will learn and perform an experiment on determination of percentage of iron in rust solution. This experiment is important because all of us know corrosion is an unintentional destruction or deterioration of the metal. Losses of iron occurring due to corrosion are enormous. Therefore, in order to know how much amount of iron is lost due to corrosion, one need to estimate the rate of corrosion. One of the commonly employed method of estimating rate of corrosion is by determining the amount of iron that is present in the rust formed due to corrosion over a period of time. So, though there are several methods available, electrochemical methods available for determination of iron in rust, one of the commonly employed volumetric method of estimation is by making use of external indicator method. So, the procedure for this experiment goes like this. First, rust sample is taken. Rust is nothing but iron oxide, hydrated iron oxide, Fe2O3 3H2O. This rust sample is collected over a period of time and that is dissolved in concentrated hydrochloric acid so that it gets transformed into ferric chloride. This ferric chloride solution is taken and that solution is used for estimating the percentage of iron present in the rust. For estimating this solution, the standard solution used is potassium dichromate. Therefore, first we have to prepare the standard solution of K2Cr2O7. Right? We will learn about preparation of standard solution of potassium dichromate later, but here let us try to understand a little bit chemistry of this process. Well, all of us know iron in nature exists in two oxidation states, that is Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus. Fe3 plus is the most oxidized state. Here, iron which is there in our rust solution is in the oxidation state of plus 3. Therefore, we cannot bring about reaction between ferric ions and potassium dichromate. Therefore, what is done is, there is an experimental procedural adjustment, convert all ferric ions present in ferric chloride into ferrous ions by making use of a strong reducing agent like stannous chloride. Thereby, all ferric ions present in rust solution are quantitatively converted into ferrous chloride, and this ferrous chloride, amount of iron present in this ferrous chloride is estimated by titrating against standard solution of potassium dichromate. Okay? So, therefore, what is done in a typical experiment is, rust solution, known volume of that is taken, and then usually 25 ml of that rust solution is pipetted into a clean conical flask. To that now concentrated hydrochloric acid solution of 1/3 test tube is added. This solution is heated nearly to boiling. To the hot solution, stannous chloride is added drop by drop so that this yellow colored ferric chloride solution get converted into ferrous chloride, which is colorless. Once you get this solution colorless, 1 or 2 drops excess of stannous chloride is added so that if there are some traces of ferric ions left, they are removed completely. Then, to remove this excess stannous chloride, the whole solution, the conical flask, is cooled to room temperature under running water, and then to that now 1 test tube of cold water is added to that, and then to that solution 1/4 test tube of saturated solution of mercury chloride is added at a stretch at once, so that this solution becomes silky white. This reaction should take place in that direction only to get silky white precipitate. Contrary to that, instead of getting silky white precipitate, suppose if you get a black precipitate, it is wrong. One need to redo the experiment completely. Why that black precipitate form is because this reaction is a sensitive reaction towards temperature and concentration of stannous chloride. If the concentration of stannous chloride present, residual concentration as residual stannous chloride present is high, then there is a chance that instead of getting a silky white precipitate, you will get black precipitate. And if the temperature of the solution is not proper to room temperature, then also there is a chance of getting black precipitate. Therefore, while doing this part of the experiment, when you are adding stannous chloride, after adding stannous chloride, to completely reduced ferric ions, you add only 1 drop or maximum 2 drops of stannous chloride. And then before adding mercury chloride, one need to take care to see that the solution is cooled to room temperature. Anyhow, that you will see while doing the demonstration. After cooling it sufficiently to a room temperature, if the solution till the solution is sufficiently cold, you add mercury chloride at once so that you get a silky white precipitate. After getting that silky white precipitate, now all that iron which is present in rust is converted into ferrous ions. Now these ferrous ions can react with potassium dichromate. This potassium dichromate can react with this. Therefore, by making use of standard solution of potassium dichromate, we can estimate the amount of iron present in this solution. Therefore, after preparing the solution, what you will do is, you will have to pipette out 25 ml of potassium dichromate. All that you will do, take potassium dichromate solution into a cleaned burette. Potassium dichromate is a standard solution that you need to prepare. Like you have prepared any other standard solution, you will have to prepare the standard solution of potassium dichromate by dissolving definite quantity of potassium dichromate into 50 ml volumetric flask by making use of distilled water. So, just to repeat the procedure of preparation of standard potassium dichromate solution, very accurately, weighing bottle containing potassium dichromate, transfer the crystals into the funnel placed over the 50 ml volumetric flask. Go on adding distilled water along the inner sides of the funnel. See that all the crystals are taken to the bottom of the volumetric flask. And then dissolve the crystals completely and then dilute the solution exactly up to the mark and mix well. After mixing that well, you will have to transfer that solution to a clean burette. Remember, burette should have to be cleaned thoroughly first with tap water and then with distilled water, and then you should have to rinse the burette with small quantity of potassium dichromate and throw that rinsed solution and fill it. Ensure that there are no air bubbles at any point in the burette, and also ensure that the lower part of the burette is completely filled. Note down the initial reading by holding the burette at a level such that the reading is at the eye level, and note down the initial reading and fix it to the burette stand. Now take the conical flask containing reduced ferrous ions, and then what is missing here? Indicator. Indicator in this case cannot be taken into the conical flask, so only it is called as external indicator method. The indicator selected for this experiment is K3FeCN6 potassium, K3FeCN6 potassium ferricyanide. This potassium ferricyanide is a complexing agent. All of you know, any molecule written in this form of structure is called as a coordination compound. This has an ability to form complex with ferrous ions to form a dark blue color. However, when it comes in contact with ferric ions, it does not develop any color. Therefore, this can be used as an indicator. As this has an ability to react directly with ferrous ions, you cannot take this indicator into the conical flask. It has to be taken externally on wax paper. Therefore, today you can notice, along with all other apparatus, you have been provided with a plastic tumbler containing a glass rod, and also you have been provided with a parchment paper or a paraffin coated paper like this. Now, what you have to do is to take the indicator bottle to your place, go on making indicator droplets on the wax paper using a glass tube. Make the indicator droplets of uniform size like this. Well, and the plastic tumbler, whatever is given to you, have it adjacent to it. Fill this completely with the distilled water. And you also have a glass tube, a test tube, in which you have taken a distilled water. Now, you place the glass rod inside this. Now, you make that arrangement separate. Take the solution present in the conical flask. Take the glass rod from the test tube. Place it into the conical flask. Take out that glass rod and place it over the first indicator droplet. Once you place it over the first indicator droplet, what will you observe? You know, K3FeCN6 can react with ferrous ions. When K3FeCN6 is there, potassium ferricyanide. When it comes in contact with ferrocyanins, as I said, it develops dark blue color. Therefore, what will happen here is, the moment you are placing the glass rod on this indicator droplet, that droplet becomes blue, indicating that the solution in the conical flask contains ferrocyanins. Well, that means to say, here all this reaction has happened and all ferric ion is converted into ferrocyan. Now, into this, from the burette, you go on adding potassium dichromate in the installment of 1 ml at a time and go on checking for the color change. Therefore, take this glass rod below the burette, add 1 ml of potassium dichromate from the burette into the conical flask, mix the content, bring it here, take the glass rod from the plastic tumbler, put it into the conical flask, place it over the second droplet. What do you expect to happen? You will see that there will be development of color. But if you observe very carefully, you will notice that the intensity developed will be lesser than what was the intensity for the first drop, indicating that the concentration of ferrocyanins is getting reduced. Like that, you go on adding 1 ml of potassium dichromate at a time, and every time you go on checking for the color change. You will notice that as you go on doing that, you will find a stage when you add some volume, say X, when the burette reading is X ml, and we are testing the droplet for the color change. It develops color. That means to say you are not reached the end point. Then you add next installment of 1 ml when the burette reading may be Y ml. Then, if you are checking the tested droplet, do not fail to develop, in other words, fail to develop color, indicating that the reaction is complete. Thereby, here you will come to know that the end point lies between, or the reaction get completed somewhere between X and Y. Therefore, this trial, unlike in other titrations, we go on adding drop by drop and find the exact end point in the first trial. Here we will find a range of end point. Therefore, this trial is called as pilot trial. You can see your burette reading. In all other titration, first trial is given as some number, whereas in this, for this experiment, it is given as a pilot reading. Pilot reading gives us an idea about where the end point lies. Because this experiment involves a lot of manual work, checking for the color change, every time testing with the external indicator, to save time this arrangement has been made, therefore you follow this. So thereby first trial gives you the range where the end point lies, therefore it is called as pilot trial. Then you have to do the second trial to get the accurate reading. How to go about it? Now wash this conical flask thoroughly, first we tap water and then we distill water. Pipette out 25 ml of rust solution into the clean conical flask. Add 1/3 test tube of concentrated hydrochloric acid. Heat the solution nearly to boiling, and then to the hot solution go on adding stannous chloride drop by drop till it becomes colorless. You add 1 drop excess and then cool the solution in the conical flask to room temperature. After cooling it thoroughly, you add 1/4 test tube of saturated solution of mercury chloride at once to get silky white precipitate. All that you will have to do. Then after doing that, come to the burette. Fill the burette again with potassium, the standard solution potassium dichromate you have to 0. Now when you are carrying out the titration, you need not have to test for each reading. You can go on, you can add potassium dichromate from the burette into the conical flask till you reach this reading X value. Because before X, definitely end point is not there. And we have come to know from pilot trial the final reading or the end point of the reaction lies between X and Y. So therefore, till it comes to value X, you can do it at a stretch. From then onwards, you go on adding 2 drops of potassium dichromate from the burette into the conical flask and go on checking for the color change. Thereby, you will get the exact end point. Now coming to the some arbitrary value. Say when the burette reading is about 9 ml, when the burette is showing 9, The tested droplet fails to develop color in the pilot trial, and when the burette reading is 10, the tested droplet failed to develop color. Here it will develop. When the reading is 9, it is developing color. When the reading is 10, it is not developing color, indicating that end point lies somewhere between 9 and 10. So therefore, when you are doing second trial, you will go on adding potassium dichromate till the burette reading is 9. From then onwards, you will be adding solution of the burette into the conical flask, point as 2 drops at a time, so that it will identify the color change within the limit of 0.1 ml. So when the reading, probably when you are doing like this, when the reading is 9, tested drop develops color. When the reading is probably 9.1, still it may develop color. When the reading is 9.2, you may see the development of color. When the reading is 9.3 ml, when you are adding 2 drops amounts to about 0.1 ml. Therefore, I am writing this, right? When the reading is the burette is 9.3 ml, and you are checking with that indicator droplet, if it fails to develop color, that means to say the end point is 9.3. To confirm this value, you will have to do third trial. Third trial again, you will have to wash the conical flask thoroughly and redo the whole thing and do the titration. If everything goes well, you will end up getting 9.3. Out of the 3 trials you have carried out, 2 of them are same. So in any titration, out of several trials we do, if 2 or 3 agreeing values are there, they are called as concurrent readings, and that is what is required. Once you have these values of concurrent burette reading, we can go back to our basic volumetry equation. N into V of rust solution is equal to N into V of K2Cr2O7, because K2Cr2O7 is the standard solution you have taken, potassium dichromate. Therefore, N of rust solution, in this case rust solution is nothing but ferric chloride now, is equal to N into V of K2Cr2O7 potassium dichromate solution divided by volume of rust solution taken. Well, now you know normality of potassium dichromate will be known to you because this is the standard solution. The N value you get after doing calculation in the first part, that is N of K2Cr2O7. So you will get the reading from first part of the experiment. V of K2Cr2O7 is the concurrent burette reading. That is burette reading. I will write it as BR, burette reading, concurrent burette reading, divided by volume of rust solution taken is 25 ml. Therefore, you will write 25 ml. In this case, it is 9.3. So this is known to you. You will do. Therefore, N of rust solution is equal to this. Once you have normality of any solution, you know from our basic chemistry, if you multiply that with the molecular weight of that solution, you will get the weight of iron in 1 liter is given by normality of iron solution, that is rust solution, into molecular weight of iron, that is 55.85, so many grams. Once you know this is the amount of iron present in the rust solution, which is taken in 250 ml, by knowing what is the weight of rust which was taken, we can calculate the percentage of iron by using this equation. If this turn out to be, say, A, and W is the weight of rust taken, A by W into 100 will give you percentage of iron present in the rust. Well, let us see the demonstration of the experiment of determination of percentage of iron in rust solution. The apparatus required are burette, conical flask, volumetric flask on which a clean funnel is placed, a pipette and test tubes, and a plastic tumbler containing a glass rod and a wax paper. All this would be given to you while collecting the apparatus. After collecting all these apparatus, first wash all of them thoroughly with the tap water, and then again by making use of distilled water. Distilled water for the purpose would be given to you in this polythene bottle. This is also called as wash bottle. Always you should have to keep this closed. Suppose if the water get exhausted, there is a container there near the deionizer plant. You will have to go there and get that filled. After filling it, you should have to ensure that it is closed and kept. Now all the apparatus are washed for me and they are cleaned, and you know the procedure. This is the fourth experiment you are doing in your regular class. All previous titrations, when you do, all the apparatus need to be washed. So cleaning apparatus is most important. Well, after cleaning all the apparatus, what you have to do is to take the volumetric flask, place funnel over it, go to the balance and weigh the required quantity of potassium dichromate crystals. You should go there, place the weighing bottle containing potassium dichromate onto the pan of the electronic balance, note down W1 and note it down in your observation book. Transfer the crystals carefully onto the funnel by holding it over the funnel, and then lift it up by holding it over there only, so that if there are some crystals sticking, if at all they are falling, they fall into the conical flask only. And then reverse it, put it back onto the pan of the balance and note down W2. W1 minus W2 will give you the amount, that is W3, of the potassium dichromate crystals you have taken for preparing the standard solution. After noting down the weight, go to your place the volumetric flask on the table so that it is firm. Go on adding distilled water along the inner sides of the funnel like this. When you are adding, ensure that all the crystals are taken to the volumetric flask. And lift the pipette little up, add some more distilled water at the tip of the pipette, so that if there are some crystals sticking here, they are taken into the volumetric flask, and place it back. And most of the time you may see that there will be some crystals sticking onto the inner surface of the volumetric flask. They need to be taken to the bottom of the volumetric flask. For doing that, what you do, go on adding distilled water along the inner sides of the volumetric flask like this, so that draining water on the inner surface take all the crystals down to the solution. You add water using this such that it comes sufficiently large, and then hold the conical flask like this. Go on swirling it carefully to ensure that all the crystals are dissolved completely. Right? Suppose if you do not dissolve all the crystals completely, the solution you are going to make will not be of the accurate concentration what you want or what you get according to the calculation, as solids occupy less space compared to solution. So when you are making the solution exactly up to this mark, and if you have done dissolution properly, the concentration of dichromate what you are going to get will be correct. Otherwise, it will be wrong. So ensure that all the crystals are dissolved completely, and then remember this solution need to be made exactly up to this mark. Then only it will become 250, and then only it will be of the concentration what you intend it to be. So therefore, go on adding distilled water using this wash bottle till it comes to some level which is well below the mark. You can see here, mark is somewhere here and the solution level is here. And when it is this, if I continue adding this with this, there is every chance that it may go beyond the mark. If it go beyond the mark, the solution will not be of the concentration what you want to be. Therefore, to avoid that error, what you have to do is, you can make use of either the burette or the pipette, whichever is convenient to you. Take distilled water into the conical flask. Anyhow, it is washed with distilled water. Therefore, if you add water, there will be no problem. Or take water into the conical flask, a burette. You can take this below that and go on adding distilled water. For me, this is convenient. Therefore, I am doing with pipette. So, suck some distilled water from the conical flask into the pipette. Bring this pipette over the volumetric flask. If you open the forefinger at the top there, water drains down, and as water is draining down, you can see the level of the solution going up slowly. Slower the better. So go on doing that till the solution level come to the mark edge. Take the lower meniscus. Right? Immediately throw that left out water and ensure that the solution level is exactly up to the mark. Then stopper it tightly. Hold it like this with both hands pressing opposite to each other. Tilt it upside down and shake well so that you get a solution of uniform concentration. Do at least 2-3 times. Only when the solution concentration is uniform, you can call it as a standard solution. Otherwise, you cannot call it as a standard solution. So, then you open the stopper, go to burette. As I said, this need to be washed thoroughly first with tap water and then with distilled water. This has been done by our people for me, therefore I am not doing. Then in this burette, you have to take standard solution of potassium dichromate you have prepared. Therefore, what you do, place the funnel over the burette. Take small quantity of this standard solution of potassium dichromate you have made into the burette. For transferring solution from one container to the other container, you can make use of funnel. After transferring this, go to sink, allow some solution to go out so that if there are any water particles there, they are driven out, and then hold it like this, go on swirling it, and slowly you make the other side down so that that solution of potassium dichromate taken in the burette drains down, go into the sink. Thereby, if at all some water particles are there causing dilution effect to your standard solution, they are completely removed. Then fill the burette with fresh solution of potassium dichromate using the same funnel. Once the solution is taken, let this volumetric flask go to back. Then go to sink. Allow some solution to go out. You can see there is an air gap here that need to be removed. Therefore, allow some solution to go out and ensure that there are no air bubbles at any point in the burette. Because if some air gap is there, that much amount of that much space is occupied by air. Thereby, that much volume measurement you are going to measure will be wrong. That space is occupied by air, and that much amount of solution there is less. Therefore, there should not be any air bubble at any point. So, by holding it in the sink, open the stopper slowly so that the solution goes out, and note down the initial reading. Right? Slowly you adjust the initial reading. Here again, you can take lower meniscus. Right? Then stopper it tightly. Ensure that the burette is not leaking at any point, particularly near this stopper, nozzle, or it is not broken anywhere. And ensure that there are no air bubbles. And hold the burette such that the solution level is at your eye level, and note down the initial reading. Initial reading can be 0 or 0.1, 0.2, whatever it is, your convenience. You can take any reading, but it should be accurate. Then fix it into the burette stand. This is about preparation of standard solution of potassium dichromate and taking that into the burette. Now, let us go to the part of estimation of rust solution. As I said, rust solution is now ferric chloride solution. I've told you ferric chloride solution is made by making use of rust. By taking definite quantity of rust collected over a period of time, definite period of time, and dissolving that in concentrated hydrochloric acid and filtering, we get this rust solution. Therefore, chemically speaking, this rust solution is nothing but ferric chloride solution in which iron is in the oxidation state of +3. If I find out what is the concentration of iron present in this solution, my experiment is over. Rest on is calculation. How to do it? Let us see now. So, pipette out exactly 25 ml of rust solution into a clean conical flask using a clean pipette. Then when I was taking distilled water, I was sucking the solution by making use of mouth because water is not hazardous. But when you are taking rust solution, you cannot pipette out using your mouth. Through your mouth, one should make use of what is called as pro-pipetter. What is pro-pipetter? It is simply a rubber bulb containing some valves here and there. If you press, air goes out, and if I am pressing it and placing it in the solution, some amount of solution comes out. Now, because I have to measure definite quantity of rust solution in this, I should have to rinse this pipette with small quantity of rust solution. How I will do? What I will do is place this pipette with a rubber bulb and put it in the solution of rust, release, some rust solution comes out, comes into the pipette, go to the sink, tilt it upside down slowly, that rust solution come to the other side of the pipette, let it come till this safety mark, which is blue color, safety mark, so that whatever water particles are there till that level, they are drained out. If this is not done, this procedure is called as rinsing of pipette. This is done to remove the dilution effect due to water particles that may be sticking onto the inner surface of the pipette. So drain them out completely, then pipette out exactly 25 ml rust solution. Suck slowly such that it comes to the safety bulb. Here his colored thing is there. Then tilt this conical flask, volumetric pipette little up. Slowly you open your forefinger such that solution level come to the mark. Mark is somewhere here. Therefore, slowly you release your forefinger. As you are releasing your forefinger, you can notice the solution level goes down. When the solution level come to the mark etched, tighten your finger and transfer the solution into the clean conical flask. This conical flask and the bottle in which rust solution is there, they should be as close as possible. There is a time gap you can notice. The moment when tighten my finger, at that point solution level is at the mark, and immediately I should have to release. Then only the volume measured will be correct. Otherwise, if the time gap is large, there can be error because some drops may go out, because it works on the principle. Like for example, if I am having my bottle somewhere here, adjust the level, and then if I move, as I am moving, there will be jerk given. There is every chance that some drops go out. That should not happen. Therefore, to avoid that error, what you should have to do is to have this bottle as close as possible, suck the solution, adjust to the mark, immediately you transfer that into the conical flask. After that, leave that bottle back. When the solution is draining down from the pipette into the conical flask, let it take its time. Don't try to blow the pipette or do something. Then to take the last drops out, touch the tip of the pipette to the bottom of the conical flask 2-3 times. You can notice at the point of contact there is solution draining down. Do gently 2-3 times to ensure that most of the solution is taken out. So if you complete this, measuring part is complete. Then what we have to do is to, we know now iron is in the oxidation state +3 and the reagent selected is dichromate. Dichromate cannot react with ferric iron. Therefore, this need to be reduced. How to reduce it? Well, as I said, you will have to take this solution. There is a hydrochloric acid kept in a tray and there is a test tube. From the bottle into the test tube you transfer nearly 1/3, right, of potassium hydrochloric acid, and transfer that into the conical flask in which you have taken rust solution. Then you will have to heat this nearly to boiling till you observe 1 or 2 bubbles in the conical flask. So the solution needs to be hot so that efficient reduction can be done. So reducing agent selected in this case is stannous chloride solution. Stannous chloride solution is given to you in the burette kept in the side bench. So you can take a paper, fold it like this, and hold the conical flask using this. This will not be out. You can see it is now bubbles are coming. Stannous chloride is given to you in this burette. Take this conical flask below this burette. See, you can see it is yellow colored solution. Go on adding stannous chloride drop by drop. It comes within few drops. See that yellow colored solution become colorless. So as you are adding stannous chloride being a good reducing agent reduces ferric iron, which is yellow in color, to ferrous iron, which will be colorless. Therefore, as you are adding stannous chloride, you can notice that deep yellow colored solution has become pale yellow to palest possible yellow, suddenly it become colorless. The change of palest possible yellow to colorless, that distinction making, is difficult for human eye. Therefore, to be on the safer side, we ask you to add 1 or 2 drops excess of stannous chloride. Well, after adding stannous chloride, now ferric iron is reduced to ferrous now, but we know there is excess of stannous chloride added that need to be removed. If that is not removed, actually it will interfere with the final titration with potassium dichromate. Therefore, now only reduction of ferric to ferrous has happened, but there is excess stannous chloride. So now what I have to do is to remove excess stannous chloride. For removing excess stannous chloride, we need to add saturated solution of mercury chloride. For mercury chloride to be added, the solution in the conical flask should have to be cooled to room temperature. That's what I am doing here by holding it below the running water. So we know water is a good conductor of heat. It will take away the heat present in this solution while it is going out. You can see this water which is going out is hot. So, well, this is important step. If this is not cooled properly, finally when you are adding mercury chloride, instead of getting silky white precipitate, you will get black precipitate. If you get black precipitate, it is wrong. You will have to redo the whole thing starting from pipetting the solution. So thereby, how much time it will consume? To save that time, have little extra patience to cool it properly so that reaction take place in the direction you want. Okay. Your palm front side now, skin is thick, it may not be in a position to sense. Therefore, you can touch the conical flask to back side and you can feel the temperature easily. So, if you're not feeling hot, then it is cooled sufficiently. And you will have to add 1 test tube distilled water. Now itself you add 1 test tube distilled water. If you use cold water, that will be still better, so that it will bring down the temperature. It is cold only. You add 1 test tube distilled water before adding mercury chloride itself, so that the solution become cool. Now you add 1/4 test tube of saturated solution of mercury chloride. Mercury chloride is highly poisonous, all of you know. Therefore, it is kept in a closed container with a glass tube. Close the glass tube with your 4 finger, some solution come into that. From that you transfer to test tube, and from the test tube you transfer to conical flask at once so that you get silky white precipitate. If you don't transfer it at once, you may end up getting a black precipitate. See here, this is silky white precipitate. Now, so you have completed the job of reducing ferric iron to ferrous iron and eliminating the excess stannous chloride completely. So that part is over. One thing which is missing here is indicator. Indicator, as you know, is a means to detect the end point of a titration. End point of a titration. In all other experiments, we take indicator into the conical flask. In this experiment, unfortunately, this indicator, potassium ferricyanate, has an ability to react with ferrous ions and convert them into ferroso-ferricyanate, giving dark blue color. It is a stable complex. Therefore, no further reaction can take place. Hence, that means to say, you should avoid direct contact between this indicator and this solution. Therefore, we make the indicator droplet on the wax paper. This wax paper need to be cleaned thoroughly with tap water and then with distilled water. Put it over a supporting medium like this. Take the indicator bottle to your place. Make the droplets of the indicator. This droplet should have to be of uniform size, same size. So as uniform as possible. So that you can compare the intensities developed very accurately, right? Well, now place this indicator bottle back to its place. Take this plastic tumbler, fill it with distilled water, full. And ensure that this glass rod is washed thoroughly with distilled water. And then place it in this. Now have all this as close as possible. Now take the glass rod from this plastic tumbler, place it into the conical flask containing reduced rust solution. Some ferrous ions get adsorbed on the surface. Then take it and place it over the indicator droplet. It should become blue, indicating that iron solution in this is in the ferrous form. Once you are placing this glass rod on the indicator, you should go to this only for cleaning purpose. Now, to be on the safer side, note down the initial reading again. It should be same as you have noted earlier. Fix the burette in the burette stand, hold the conical flask like this. You add 1 ml of potassium dichromate. Mix the contents properly. Then take the glass rod from the plastic tumbler, place it into the conical flask, place it over the second droplet. There will be development of color. Now like this, you go on adding potassium dichromate from the burette into the conical flask 1 ml at a time, and every time you add, you take this and check it. So you will notice there will be development of color, indicating that still it is ferrous. You go on adding. So add next installment of 1 ml, take the glass rod, place it over the next droplet. There is color indicating that. You add next installment of 1 ml, stop over the reading, stop over the burette, note down the reading. Next installment of 1 ml, mix the contents properly. Take it and place it over the next droplet. Add next installment of 1 ml. Mix the contents properly. Take it, place it over the next droplet. You can see there is development of color, but the intensity is low. So now I would like you to concentrate. When the reading is 13, the tested drop has developed color. I will add next installment of 1 ml to make it 14, and let me check now. It's not developing color. That means to say end point lies somewhere between 13, reading 13 and 14. So this trial, which gives range of burette reading, is called as pilot trial. Now, based on the reading which are obtained in the first trial, the reading was 13, the tested drop was developing a color. When the reading is 14, after adding next installment of 1 ml, the reading is 14 now, the tested drop is not developing any color, indicating that the end point lies between 13 and 14. So it gives the range of volume, therefore it is called as pilot trial. So when I am doing the second trial, what I can do is, I can go up to 13 without testing any time, and from then onwards I have to add 2 drops at a time and check so that I get the exact burette reading. So for doing second trial, pipette out exactly 25 ml of rust solution into the conical flask using a cleaned pipette. And as I said earlier, when the pipette is draining down, let it take its time. Don't try to blow the pipette or hit against conical flask. To take the last drops out, touch the tip of the pipette to the bottom of the conical flask like this. You can see at the point of contact, solution drains down. So when you are doing second trial, again you will have to wash the conical flask thoroughly, first with tap water and then with distilled water, and then pipette out exactly 25 ml of rust solution into the conical flask. Then you add 1/3 test tube of hydrochloric acid. Right, hydrochloric acid is there here. From the bottle, transfer to beaker. From the beaker, you transfer into the conical flask, and then heat this solution nearly to boiling. So while after heating it, we have to add stannous chloride drop by drop, then to the hot solution, then cool it to room temperature. After cooling it to room temperature, you add 1/4 test tube of saturated solution of mercury chloride at once so that you get silky white precipitate. And then you can fill the burette to 0 again and carry out the titration. After heating it, go on adding stannous chloride drop by drop to this hot solution of rust, in which iron is in the oxidation state +3. When we are adding stannous chloride, it reduces to +2. So plus 2 state is colorless, all of you know. So go on adding till it becomes colorless. After that also you add 1 drop excess of stannous chloride. And then you have to cool this solution before adding mercury chloride. Therefore, cool it under tap water so that it comes to room temperature. Add 1 test tube of cold water so that cooling becomes much faster, and anyhow you need to add distilled water even at the end. Instead of that you can put it now itself. To the cold solution you add saturated solution of mercury chloride at once. So transfer from the water into the test tube. Transfer the whole thing at once into the conical flask so that you get silky white precipitate. Then once you get silky white precipitate, you will have to ensure that the indicator droplets are there in sufficient number, otherwise you have to make indicator droplets separately after washing this paper and this plastic tumbler filled with distilled water. Now fill the burette again to 0. Take the glass rod from the plastic tumbler, place it over the into the conical flask, take it and place it over the indicator droplet. Better you start checking from the other end. Right? Now, when you are adding potassium dichromate, you need not have to add 1 ml at a time like you did in the pilot trial, because from the pilot trial we have come to know that end point is definitely not before 13 ml for this solution. Therefore, you add at a stretch till the burette reading comes to 13. Okay. Now mix the contents properly, give sufficient time so that all the reactants react together. Then these are ionic reactions, relatively fast that way. Well, take the glass rod, put it into the conical flask, take it and place it over the second droplet. See, it is developing color. That means to say, whatever we have done in the first trial is correct. Now, you go on adding 2 drops at a time. And every time you go on checking. So it is developing a color. Your next installment of 2 drops. Take the glass rod, place it over the next droplet. It develops color. You add next installment of 2 drops. Mix the contents properly. Take the glass rod from the distilled water, put it into the conical flask, place it over the next drop. So you add next installment of 2 drops and check for the color. Take the glass rod, place it over the indicator droplet. It fails to develop color. See, previous 2 drops there was a color developed. Now I am checking, it is not developing a color, indicating that the end point is whatever it has come now. So now take out the burette. From the burette stand, note down the final reading. The exact burette reading is 13.4. So now, second trial you have got some reading. To confirm that whatever you are getting in the second trial is correct, you will have to do third trial. For doing third trial again, wash the conical flask thoroughly with tap water and then with distilled water, and then pipette out exactly 25 ml of rust solution into the conical flask using a pro pipetter, and then transfer 1/3 test tube of concentrated hydrochloric acid, heat the contents in the solution to nearly boiling, and then to the hot solution go on adding stannous chloride drop by drop till it becomes colorless, and then cool it to room temperature. To the cold solution, you add 1 test tube of distilled water and then 1/4 test tube of saturated solution of mercuric chloride so that you get a silky white precipitate, and then start doing the titration again. When you are doing the titration now also till the reading is 13 ml, you can add it a stretch. From then onwards, you go on adding 2 drops at a time and detect the exact end point. If everything has gone well without any problem, the reading whatever you are getting in the second trial and the reading whatever you get in the third trial will be same. They are called as concurrent burette reading. One has to use those concurrent burette reading for doing the calculation. Once you have that reading, enter those readings in the tabular column as shown in the book here. Pilot trial, first trial, second trial, and note down these 2 readings are called as concurrent burette readings that you will have to enter here, and then you have to go for calculation. For doing the calculation, as I said, N into V of rust solution is equal to N into V of dichromate, which is our standard solution. We want to find out what is the normality of iron solution you have taken, so that will be given like this. So whatever the reading I have got now, it is 13.4. You have to write 13.4 here, 13.4 here, and normality of potassium dichromate you can calculate according to the equation given in the first part. It turns out to be 0.0581. Write that here in this equation. Volume of rust solution taken is 25, and you can end up getting the normality of iron solution. Multiply that with the atomic weight of iron, that will give you the amount of iron present in that solution. And by knowing what is the amount of rust taken and by knowing what is the weight of iron which we are getting, we can calculate the percentage of iron present in the rust solution.